Good evening, welcome to a special edition of To The Point. This evening we'll be looking at the American elections, who will be elected in office. With us this evening to discuss this issue is Dr. Khaled Refaat Saleh, who is the director of the TIBA Center for Political and Strategic Studies. A pleasure to have you,
nice to meet you.
With us. Before we go into any details, worth noting in this election, because there are lots of things that are distinct.
Yes.
And one thing that is constantly being mentioned, for example, in the American media, is the fact that this is the first presidential election with two candidates over 70.
Yes. Actually, if Joe Biden wins, he's going to be the eldest president in American history, all over the American history. He's going to be 70 something. So there is so many different things in this election. If you look at from the beginning, the master scene of the beginning is the epidemic, the coronavirus, and how President Trump handled the epidemic. I don't know if this election was 1 year ago, I guarantee that President Trump is going to win. But for the time being, at this time, nobody knows, you know. Even everybody, if you ask anyone about the elections, who's going to win, he can say, I don't know, except of the two guys of the campaign. They're going to assure their president is going to win. But so many different things, as you said, in this election, we see a huge number of Hispanics going to vote this time, a huge number of African Americans going to vote this time, and Arabs too going to vote this time. You can look at it's a minorities elections.
So a lot of minorities.
A lot.
The fact that this is one of the other things that make it quite historic is that this is the first time that in pre-elections, you have over 100 million that have actually already went and participated in the process and cast their ballots.
Right, you're right.
Is this the fact that minorities, as you're mentioning, are more minorities are participating?
Yeah.
Is that why the number is high?
Yes, for two reasons actually. First reason is minorities go to the election because of all the eruptions, you know, and the other thing is because of the COVID-19 epidemic. Many people don't want to go to the polls. Many people to go to mix with others in this circumstances. So, for just 2 hours ago, I read that we have 99.9 million people right now for voting, and 62 voted by mail, and the other went by themselves to the polls. So we have a huge number of people participating this time. If you compare this number by the number to 2016, you have almost 70% of voters right now. And we expect this time we have a rank or a huge number of voters, not less than 150. I expect that not less than 150 million gonna vote this time. Who knows who win? I don't know.
We are going to go to Washington right now. We have with us Dr. Mac Sharqawi, who is the writer and professor of international relations from Washington, D.C. Dr. Sharqawi, can you tell us, Dr. Sharqawi, how are things at your end? It's quite a historical election this time, with over 100 million that have participated in pre-election phase. How are you expecting a large turnout, a historic turnout in this phase of elections, or what?
Thank you very much for having me, and my regards to you, guests, and your audience in Egypt and all over the world. I believe this election is a special election with 2020, and most of the people was registered to vote in the United States, and they did not use their right, their constitutional right to vote. They are keen this time to go down and casting the votes. I believe that according to the early voting data and mailing ballots, they showed that a lot of people were being registered into the database, and they did not elect in 2006, they are involved in this process. And I believe now we're up to 100 million people already being casting votes, early votes, and voting by mail, and also people attending today up to, I believe now, almost 6,000 in voting process in the United States. And we are looking for maybe 150 million Americans will vote this election. And that, I believe, is going to be a record. 2016, I believe it was 57% from people registered in the age of election in the United States. This time it's different, and people are keen into casting their votes and choosing their own candidate to rule in the United States for the next 4 years.
Do you expect this time as well, because in 2016 it was quite significant that the White House and the Senate were both from the same party. Will we see a repetition of that?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead.
We have technical problems. I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Do you think the Senate...
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, we can hear you. Go ahead. Dr. Mack, go ahead. I can hear you. Dr. Mack, can you hear me? We unfortunately lost our connection with Dr. Mack. We'll try to get another connection with him. I was asking Dr. Mack about the Senate and the White House.
I expect the Senate going to be for the Democrats, for
so
sure.
This unlike last time.
Like last time, yeah. But the president, I mean...
it was quite close. It's 53-47, but...
no, yeah, but for the Senate...
You expect
everybody
them to be
yeah, it's expected they're going to be from the Democrats too.
Why this time from the Democrats? Why?
Because people in America are looking for the issues that is very, very close to Democrats. They're looking for the taxes, for the abortion, looking for the Medicaid, medication, all these things are very related to Democrats. If you look to Republicans look for the other issue, like tax relief, looking for arms, looking for fighting with China. All these issues doesn't concern the average American people. The John one doesn't care about this. So people, when they go to the polls, they're looking for their interest. All they care is economy. If economy comes first, everything after that doesn't care. So we expect that Senate is going to be from Democrats, but for the president, nobody knows, because it is not direct elections, it's representatives. If it's direct election, we know that Democrats are going to do it again. Like last time, if you remember last time in 2016, Hillary Clinton over President Trump was 3 million people, 3 million votes.
Yes.
Yeah, but when we come to representatives, it's quite different. And this time, that's why this time nobody expects anything, nobody says anything, because nobody knows what's going on.
So basically what you're saying is that electoral polls are not necessarily reflective of the outcome, as was in the
That happened last time.
with Clinton, for example, that the polls were more in her favor and the end result was quite different.
Because of Florida too. And everybody expects Florida going to do it this time. Last time was because Florida, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania. Nobody knows this time Florida where it goes. Florida has 27.
Florida has quite a large Hispanic population.
Yes.
And it also has a quite large elderly population. We'll get into that. We managed to get in contact again with Dr. Mack. Dr. Mack, can you hear us this time? I hope.
I hear you well now. No
yes.
Please let me know where I got off, because I was talking to
okay, no problem. Dr. Mack, we were discussing the issue of the Senate. Do you think the Senate will go red or blue? And key states like Florida, for example, we're just discussing that. The fact that it has mostly a minority population and elderly as well, will they be more in favor of Trump or Biden?
I believe the Senate have a special case. The senator in the United States served for 6 years, and every 2 years they make a renewal for 1/3 of the Senate. This year is 35 seats. I believe it's 23 from Republicans and 12 from Democrats. Most likely, if the supporter for Mr. President Donald Trump is keen to go down to this day, today, the election day, I believe that it's going to be a punishment election. They're going to punish the Democrats, what they did to Donald Trump, starting from his beginning of his first period from January 2017. And if Democrats put rocks on the roads for Mr. Trump, they do everything in their power to not let him do what he's supposed to do. And this is very obvious. And that makes one half of the United States population, the Republican Party, and the Republican people in the United States are really enraged, and they are not going to forget the Republican what they did to stealing Mr. Trump's first presidential period. And I believe if they go today, the Republican, it's not going to be just for the White House who's going to be into the Oval Office. It's going to be the three smash heads. It's going to be the White House and the House of Representatives and also the Senate. That's my opinion, and I believe most of my colleagues agree with that. It's one or nothing.
Yes.
It's all or nothing, I'm sorry.
If we look at the international relations file, South Korea, for example, made it very, very clear that it will definitely vote Biden should it be allowed to participate. What about Russia, for example? Russian position has been quite balanced. It has not revealed the skin. Where do you think Russia would vote? Would it go Biden or Trump, in your opinion?
My opinion, they are very conservative in this election. They're supporting Trump, but at the same time, they're not going to lose the relationship with who's going to be the president of the United States. But to be honest with you, what Obama in 8 years did with the Russian, it was not that great relationship between the United States and Russia. And also, who is punishing Russia for what Russia did into the Ukraine problem and, taking the Crimea issue problem in 2014 and sanctions from the UE and sanctions from the United States. Also, when they poisoning the double agent Sergei, I believe so, United States taking a very tough situation against Russia, and I believe they kick, 56 diplomats from the United States, and also a lot of precautions from the United States. When the United States having CASTA, act in the United States, that's in 2017, July 2017, and this is CASTA. It is how to protect the United States from their own enemy, and the three enemies in the United States is Iran and North Korea and Russia. So I believe that's in Article 231 that's imposing sanctions on any countries dealing with these countries, especially for arms deals. And this is the main issue for the resolution now studied into the U.S. Congress for imposing sanctions in Turkey for having a deal, an army deal with S-400 from Russia. I believe the United States' strategy for the next 10 years is considering Russia as one of the enemy of the United States. Of course, Russia have a big role to help, Trump, for 2016 election. But in this year, I believe they are a little bit conservative. They are helping, but they're taking, holding the stick from the middle. Yeah. They don't want to have an issue with who's going to be the president for the United States. But China is a different story.
Yes. Dr. Mak Sharqawi, writer and professor of international relations from Washington, D.C. Pleasure to have you with us on To The Point. Dr. Khaled, Iran. Is it praying now for Trump or Biden?
Biden for sure. They are crossing their fingers for Biden right now because Trump, he said that he gonna go for stiffer procedures against Iran.
Yes.
And we see what you can say is tensions in the Gulf area between Arab Emirates and Iran, and now America goes far with Arab Emirates, giving F-35,
Yes.
and America said one word that we will never allow Iran to attack their neighbors. So we see that Trump put all his power behind the enemies of Iran, if you call them like Saudi Arabia, from Arab Emirates or whatever. So Iran now is crossing their fingers waiting for Biden. Oh, the same thing for China too. China has a big problem with President Trump. President Trump said one word that we will never allow China to go.
If he's back in office, are you expecting things to escalate?
Yes.
This trade war between, because it's not just a trade war. I mean, you have a trade
It's a
and
trade
a
war.
COVID-19.
It's a trade war.
Yeah, I mean, it really is a big war.
Yeah.
Will it continue more aggressively, or will things mellow down once he's reelected?
No, there's no slowdown. It's gonna ignite. It's gonna be escalators up and gonna go far and far. I think President Trump, if he goes back to the office, he's gonna far beyond that, because he said that we never allow one American dollar to go to China. We never allow American factories to go to China, American jobs to go to China. That's what he said. And he was very obvious. And I think President Trump, say whatever you like about him. This guy, when he says something, he do it. And we know that very sure. So I think that China, there's North Korea, and Iran, most these three countries are waiting for miracle or for Biden to come, because to ease the relationship between America and these countries. We say other things too in the Middle East. In the Middle East, we have another problem. They are waiting for Trump, because Joe Biden has a very different agenda.
Yes.
Different from us, waiting for Trump. And as we see that President Trump said that I will never allow an American soldier outside of the country. We're not going to fight for others.
Yes.
So we see a lot of hot area cooling down. But if Biden comes, I think it's a different story. Yes. We're going to go back to Obama time. We're going to see a lot of invasions, a lot of strikes, or there and here and whatever, as you remember that.
Yes, yes, yes.
So it's a different story. But both of them, all I care about is the American electorate. The American doesn't care about all this. The Americans care only about economy. And both of them has a different...
About internal affairs.
Yes, that's all they care about.
The American elections are quite complex, how the process is done and how the numbers work out. A brief report clarifying some of those issues, and then we'll continue our discussion, moving on to international relations. Who wants Biden versus who wants Trump? Right after this.
The election system in the United States of America is a unique system. Contrary to what many believe, that American voters elect their president directly, the word decisive refers to the Electoral College, which consists of 538 delegates. When the American voter goes to the polls to choose a new president for the United States of America, in practice, he does not choose his president directly, but rather gives his vote to one of the delegates in the state in which he is voting, because the American presidential election system depends on the so-called Electoral College. In order to enter the White House, the two U.S. presidential candidates need at least 270 votes, that is, the half plus one, out of the total number of 538 members of the Electoral College, which is equivalent to the number of members of the U.S. House of Representatives and Senate. And each U.S. state has a certain number of votes within this complex according to its population and the number of representatives who represent it in the U.S. Congress. It should be noted here that California, the most populous U.S. state, has 55 votes in the compound, while Florida has 27 votes, while North Dakota has only 3 votes.
Welcome back. Israel. Here is the dilemma. Biden was the vice president in Obama's administration that was very much in support of Israel. Trump, suffice it to say, he just a few days ago, probably yesterday or something, he said, we have friends in Israel, in the region, and he was talking to Israel. Who will Israel want in office, Biden or Trump, in your opinion?
You know what?
I know it's quite complex.
Yes, quite complex. Tell you the truth, Israel is going to take advantage of both of them. If Trump continues, Israel is going to go in the way of normalizing its relationship with Arabs.
Yes.
Now we have Arab Emirates, we have Bahrain, we have Jordan, we have Egypt, and Sudan is almost about there. So they're talking about Morocco, they're talking about Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia, beginning of the year, I believe.
Yeah, Saudi Arabia. And they're talking about some other countries. Nobody knows, maybe Oman or wherever it is. So these are the advantages Israel going to take from Trump. But what about if Joe Biden comes? If Joe Biden comes, they take another advantage. Because when he went to the IPAC conference, he gave some promises. He gave 2 promises. First promise, he said that he's going to maintain and keep the safety of Israel and to be the strongest country in the region all over all its enemies, all together. This is the first promise he said. And the second promise he said that he's going to increase all the, how to say, the military donations to Israel. He's going to say that, and he promised for these 2 promises. So it doesn't matter if Trump continues or if Joe Biden comes, Israel going to take advantage of any of them. So it doesn't matter, you know. So,
as you mentioned earlier, a lot of the minorities are voting.
Yes.
When Trump came into office, he did not have a lot of rapport, if we can put it that way, with the minorities and with the females as well, worth noting. Do you think over his term in office, has that changed?
no, it went worse.
It went worse.
It went worse. It went worse. But because, you know what? Because once he came, he said that he's going to build all the wall between U.S. and Mexico. So every Hispanic in U.S. states going to have a problem with him.
Yes.
Now he goes for stiffer and tougher regulations for the immigration process. This has a problem with Hispanics. And you have a problem with African Americans too. He said he's going to give more money for the police departments and he against riots and all these things. And you should put the National Guards on the cities and all these things. So I have another problem with African Americans. We have another problem with Arabs and or Muslims because he forbade 4 countries, citizens to come in America.
Yes.
So there's a problem. Has a problem with gays too. Has a problem with abortions, supporters like women. So has a problem with every minority in the states. The main supporters of Trump are the white elders. They support him. And we have another issue here.
But
okay, go on.
White elderlies, they were in support of him. Will they still be in support after COVID-19?
Some of
because
them,
this is the issue. I mean, this is a pandemic that really tested the will of a lot
what
of
he
governments.
did for the elders, he gave them a stimulus check, as you remember. He gave $300 every week for these people. So he released the attention, released the effect of the pandemic. But what I want to say something very, very strange this time, that Joe Biden is Catholic. And he's Catholic. If he wins, he's going to be the second Catholic president in the history of the United States after JFK. It's in 1961. So now we have 6 years without one Catholic president. So as a Catholic, has some morals for he's against abortion, he's against gays.
But does that go with today's trend?
What I want to say,
like the new generation. This is an old-fashioned.
That's what I say, that elderly people cares about this.
But the new generation.
The new generation doesn't care about this. It's
too
freedom.
Conservative.
Yes, he's conservative. He's conservative. But that's what, yesterday or the day before yesterday, he went out and he said he has no problem with abortions. And everybody doesn't believe him because it's against his beliefs.
Yes.
So
It's against his religious beliefs.
Yeah.
America is quite divided.
Today in the morning, he went to the church first and went to the grave of his son.
son.
Yeah.
America is divided.
Yes, it is.
Which president, in your opinion, if any of them, is there hope to reunite the American rank and file? Because now you have minorities on one side, the conservatives on one side, the liberals on the other side. I mean, really the gap between them is very evident now than it was in the past.
If Joe Biden wins, the gap gonna narrows. But if Trump wins, the gap gonna goes up wide and wide and wider. Because the character of Trump itself, Trump doesn't tolerate it. He just say, I'm gonna do this. No matter what happened, whatever it happens.
You don't think his position, sometimes your platform, phase one,
Yes.
term one,
Yep.
is different from your platform term two. Now should he be re-elected, and this is term two and the final term, because there is no
I think
third
this rule doesn't go for Trump. Because
Okay.
this guy is very stubborn, you know, he doesn't care about anything. This is a big problem with Trump. And this is a problem with Trump in all the international relationship, as you notice.
Yeah.
He doesn't change his opinion. It doesn't, no matter what happened, no matter if the case is changed, it doesn't change his opinion. But I think if President Joe Biden or elected President Joe Biden comes, it's going to be different story, very different story. Because from day one, he's going to go and to gather all Americans back again, because his slogan is America come back again. It's a slogan for him. All he cares, another day for America, another day, another start for America. And he gave very good promises. Like first thing he said, he's gonna tax deductible for every American. He said he's gonna end all the pandemic in 1 year. I don't know how, but that's what he said. And he promised that 2021 is gonna be a year of flourish of America. That's what he said. Many people hear that, and there is a new phenomenon I expect this time, that the new generations are going to the polls for the first time. Mostly that we have the average voters age is between 30 and 35. This year we come to 20 to 26. So that means that a new generation are out for the polls, especially Hispanics and blacks.
Yes. With us on the line is His Excellency Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Your Excellency, can you hear us?
Yes, how are you?
How are you, sir? Whenever we look at American elections, we are always drawing scenarios vis-a-vis how will the president sitting in the Oval Office deal with regional issues. And here I'm talking about issues pertaining to our part of the world. Be it Biden or Trump, will this differ, or is this an administration's position, so to speak?
We have here two scenarios to follow.
Yes.
The first, that usually the American people always give the president another period to rule. Very rare occasions when they fail the president. This is scenario number one. Scenario number two, that according to the estimation, it seems that Biden is gaining at the beginning. So we don't know. But let us talk about Egypt and our region.
Yes.
I am quite sure that the United States is, after all, a country with organizations, political organizations. Here I talk about the presidency, about the Congress, then the Foreign Office and the Pentagon.
Yes.
The Foreign Office and the Pentagon related to the old bureaucracy in the good sense of the word. Mm-hmm. They understand quite well that Egypt and the region is very important for the American national security. Since Eisenhower and Gamal Abdel Nasser. Although by that time we are not in the best situation concerning the relations, but even so, President Eisenhower made a point to see Gamal Abdel Nasser when our president went to the United Nations, and he said some very good words about him. Since then, the states stopped to cooperate with Egypt with food security programs. I remember the PL 480, where we were getting cereals and wheat. and we paid in Egyptian pounds for Egyptian development programs. Then we have a time like when President Reagan was ruling, and he made some slip of a tongue against our President Mubarak in some time. But even so, he continued to consider Egypt very important for the American national security. Then lately we have Hillary Clinton, who visited Egypt when she was foreign minister, and she said the same. In order to stop any movement from the Congress to stop the American assistance to Egypt. On the other side, I think that we are in a good position because normally we are cooperating in bringing peace to our area, especially since the peace initiative of President El-Sadat. And since then, the Americans continue to help Egypt with development assistance and with military assistance also. But I must say that for every dollar they help us, we are buying by more than $60 for our imports.
Yes.
So it is a balanced situation where Egypt is very important for the national security of the United States and its policy in our area. Same time, any Egyptian wise man would think that the United States is very important for our foreign relations. And thank God that now we have good relations with all the countries members in the United Nations, that Cairo is hosting many embassies and missions, much more than any capital in the world.
Yes.
So whether, if you ask me, maybe it will be easier for us if President Trump continue, because he knows the situation. His relation with our president is excellent. He praised him several times. He is satisfied with the cooperation between Egypt and U.S.
Yes. Ambassador Gamal Bayoumi.
We shall wait and see, because I don't think it wouldn't take a long time until he will realize the importance of Egypt for his international policy.
Definitely. Your Excellency, thank you very much for joining us on To The Point. What the Americans want in the following report, and then we'll be right back.
Distinguished Service Cross. And that's, of course, you know, it's the second highest medal of honor. It's like somebody punches you in the stomach and you can't get your breath for hours. Presidential would be Biden, and my reasoning be to get some sort of normalism back to the country. Let's stop fighting. If I could show you pictures of 7 years ago, when Linda and I came home, how patriotic and how honored we were by our neighbors that look double at you now. When we go to the supermarket, they look. I don't understand it. This is America. This is what my grandfather, my parents fought for. I'll be very happy when the elections are over, and I hope for this country's sake and for my grandchildren's sake that we get back to some peace and harmony and get back to normal, to respecting one another.
Donald J. Trump. Our worst enemy right now, it's those who want to inject socialism and change everything that made this country great. And he's the man that stepped up, gave up his livelihood, his income, to fix it. Everybody always talks about Staten Island. We are that little town in West Virginia where the working man lives. And these people have been neglected. He doesn't neglect them. He acknowledges their service. We just want to live and feed our kids, pay our mortgage, make sure my community's safe. It's that simple.
I'm voting for Donald Trump. I feel a little bit safer with him because I feel like people are not going to want to mess with him because they're not going to want to find out, is he really going to come after us? I believe that he will, too. When I wake up November 4th and if Donald Trump is not president, I still have bills to pay and dinner to cook and a house to clean and people to love. The world is not going to end either way.
I'm voting for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. They are not perfect. They are our best option. I'm fearful of what another 4 years of the Trump administration will look to American people, especially marginalized communities.
The fear is real and it's valid because you can lose your job if you fall upon the opposite side of the political spectrum of someone who can hire you. It's saddening to see people dislike each other just because they have a difference of opinion.
Welcome back. The United States, the people are quite tense after certain statements by Trump, because he said that should he not win the elections, then he would be contesting the results, and that means that some ballots have been rigged. Yep. He was specifically talking about the pre-election ballots, that someone must have played or manipulated the results if he does not win the elections.
And he said today another thing too. He said that everything should be done by the end of the day today, and he's not allowed to go for 4 or 5 days more than that. And it's impossible, because in the American history, if you go to pull out, or go to pre-elections, you need to open all the 100 million votes in one day. It's impossible.
It's impossible.
It's impossible. And there is another thing, that the state's law different in America. Some states has the rule that you can open it by the beginning of the day, but other states like Arizona said, no, you should by the end of the day. So you should start by 9 o'clock tonight or 10 o'clock, and you take one day, so never be before Thursday. Never be. So everybody expects a problem. I need to add something. Ambassador Kamal Yumi said that there is a rule that no American president ever lost the elections, the second election.
The re-election, unless he has some kind of a problem.
No, I want to add something. I agree with him. No American president ever lost the elections during a war. Never. So people now consider the COVID-19 as a war.
As a war.
So
yes.
They expect he's gonna win. From the American history, 200 years ago, no one ever lost election during a war.
Yes. With us on the phone is His Excellency Minister Mohammed Arabi, former Minister of Foreign Affairs. Your Excellency, can you hear us?
Hi, how are you, Madam Dina?
How are you? Of course, you miss the scene, having lived in the States quite some time.
Well, I think it is still premature, to judge the results.
Yes.
I think we have to wait, and this is, a unique process in the American election. I think we didn't witness anything like this before in terms of the number of the voters, in terms of the money which was, collected for the two candidates, in terms also of the the attention of the whole countries all over the world.
Yes.
I think this will prove that the era of the United States still exists and still, intact.
Generally speaking, whose foreign policy tips the scale?
Well, I cannot, just predict what kind of changes we will face in the foreign policy of the United States, because there is a lot of hands actually formulating the foreign policy of this country, not just the president, but also another, let us say, organs like the Senate, the Congress, the National Security Advisor, the Pentagon, the CIA, all of this. So, but anyway, there is some strategic aspects. I think it will not change. But maybe the foreign policy towards, let's say, China and Russia and Europe, it will change according to the next president. If Biden will be on the White House,
yes,
I think this will enhance the relationship with the European countries, and it might also enhance the relation with China and maybe a little bit Russia. I think the Middle East maybe also will have a lot of drastic changes, towards some countries here in the region. Iran, of course, will be happy with if Biden will be in the White House.
Yes.
So there is a lot of actual changes, but anyway, the strategic aspects of the foreign policy of the United States, I think it was always, let us say, strong enough not to be subject to the opinion of the president himself.
Your Excellency, Minister Mohammed Arabi, thank you very much for joining us, and we hope we'll have you in studio soon. We have a couple of minutes to wrap up, but we cannot ignore an issue which Trump kept hammering in his campaign trail on, which is a reference to the oil. Yeah. He kept saying we have a lot of oil now. We do not need anyone's oil, and we do not have to go and fight, or not fight, but actually he referred as protect them for oil because we have enough oil.
He said from day one that blood expensive more than oil, so we don't need to exceed and put blood to get oil. And what I'm saying now, and what I see everybody says now, is that oil is going down. Oil prices are going down. If oil prices goes below $60 for a barrel, I think America is gonna go back to import oil from the Gulf or from Denmark. But for the time being, he said that we have enough oil, we don't need to import oil. But if oil goes below $60 a barrel, he gotta go, because the expenses, American oil is very, very expensive because they are digging way deeper in the ground. It's not like oil in the Gulf, it's very cheap. It costs them less than $10 a barrel. So if they expect it for 20 or 30, it's a big money. But for Americans, if they import it for 20 or 30 or 40 or even 50, they're gonna save money because it costs them to export it for $60 a barrel.
Again, does it make a difference who is elected in this region, or is it an institutions country whereby the policies will be coming from a mixed institution rather than individual?
I agree with Ambassador Mohammed Arabi that it's a constitution. The decision in America is not a president decision. It's a Pentagon, it's NSA, it's a Senate too, and it's a think tanks. Don't never forget the think tanks. Because the think tanks gives all the proposals and the strategic. America doesn't go day by day. America goes for long-term plans, like 50, 60 years. Right now, we are going for the plans that put by Henry Kissinger in the 70s. So it does a big change. But if you give him freedom to move in the tactic issues, like some commercial tensions, China, no big deal. But if you talk about fight, of the war, of the cut relations, no, you are not allowed to do that. The decision like this is made by constitutions. So I expect no big difference in strategic decision, but small freedom or allowance in the tactic decisions.
Dr. Khaled Refaat, thank you very much for joining us on To The Point. Really pleasure to have you with us. Thank you for your fruitful input. I'd like to thank you, the viewers, and we'll see you same time next week. Until then, good night.